It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So my friends, today we're gonna educate you a little bit. I have a guest on the show who wrote a book, and it's called God's Grace Alone. Let me give you a little synopsis of the book. God's Grace Alone is the story of one woman's struggle to find God's love. From a nomadic childhood filled with sexual abuse to marriages filled with emotional and physical abuse, not to mention forced abortions. She faced with the challenge of trying to save her current husband from a meth addiction. Through it all, she learns that no one is so broken that God can't fix them. Told in a simple, raw Southern voice, this is a story to inspire. The book is called God's Grace Alone. Now, this is interesting because you know where I stand. I'm a pro-life person, period. No questions, just period, I'm pro-life. But what I'd like to do, I'd not like to lecture anyone, but I think when you hear this person's story, you can think a little bit, and hopefully we can put an end to this terrible, terrible thing, abortions. I want to welcome Starr Rogers on the show, who's the author. She has a little funny accent, my friends. She's from the South. Now, another person here is not from the South. She has a normal accent. Maryann Lawhon, I'm only kidding. Maryann Lawhon, who is, of course, the President for Human Life Chapter in Hazleton, Pennsylvanians for Human Life. Starr comes from Alabama, right?
Yes.
Interesting story. You had 4 abortions.
I did.
Ready to have a 5th abortion.
Yes.
And we'll talk about why you didn't. So let's go back. Here it says here that you were sexually abused.
I was. My mother had gotten pregnant with me at a very young age, and she and Daddy married, but it was just a tumultuous marriage. He was cheating on her, and she was cheating on him. And Mother's boyfriends used to come to our house when Daddy was at work. And I would be outside, and they would pick me up and love on me, feel my breasts, try to stick their hands down my pants. And, I was just a little girl. And so...
was your mother aware of this?
She was not. She was.
How old were you?
I was like maybe 6 at that time. And so Mother had also gotten pregnant with my sister by one of my daddy's best friends. But I didn't find that out until, later on, that happened. And so it wasn't long after that she and Daddy divorced. And my sister went to live with Mother, and I went to live with Daddy and my grandmother. And during that time, let me start back on that before I got to that part. Back when I was 8 years old, I was molested by my mother's 2 brothers. At the same time, he done it to me. They drug me up under the house, because back then houses were built up off the ground, and Mother was in talking with my grandmother, and they got me and pulled me up under the house, and both of them molested me. And so, like I said, and it wasn't long after that, my parents divorced, and my sister went to live with Mother, and I went to live with Daddy and grandmother. And my daddy's brother, when he would come up, he would try to molest me, but I always hid in the bathroom, locked the door so he couldn't get to me. And of course, I don't know what it is about, when you're sexually abused, you don't tell anybody because you feel like it's your fault. You feel dirty and, and nasty. So I just never told anybody, about either one of those. And so as I got older, Daddy was never home with me. He was always out hunting or fishing, working, or, you know, with other women. And my grandmother was getting older, and I couldn't, you know, I just felt, you know, like I was in the way, you know, being at home with them. I needed to get out. So at the age of 16, I got married. You know, and at 16, you don't know what you're doing. You're just you're still a baby yourself. And the man that I married, he had come from a rough background. His family, his father was an alcoholic, his brothers were alcoholics, and he became an alcoholic. And it was just, you know, I didn't love him. I didn't know what love was. That was just a way for me to get, you know, away from home. And so our marriage rocked on, and I met up with our insurance man. Back in those days, your insurance man used to come to your house to, you know, collect your insurance policies. And so I became involved with this man. He was 10 years older than me. He was married and he had 2 children. And I got pregnant by this man. And I passed this child off as my husband's child. And we continued on having this affair for 10 years, and during those 10 years, I got pregnant. And I got pregnant 4 times, and I aborted all 4 of those children.
Going back to the first child, it wasn't your husband's child, it was this other man's child.
Yes, it was the other one's.
Okay, so who decided to have the abortion?
The man I was seeing, the daddy.
So he told you to have an abortion?
Yes.
Okay. What if you would have said no?
He would have.
You think he would
He
have
would have
abused you?
left me. He would have just left me. And I just thought, you know, I thought that this man.
How old were you when you had the
I
abortion?
was 19.
Okay, all right. You were scared, I guess.
Yes, I was. And you know, and I thought he was my savior. I thought, you know, here was this man that he was just going to save me from all the ugliness, all everything. And so I done what he said. I didn't listen to my thoughts and my feelings about it. It was just whatever that he wanted.
Mm-hmm. So you had your first abortion.
So I had my first abortion.
Where was it, in Alabama?
It was.
Yeah. A clinic that they have for abortions?
Yes, in Montgomery.
Yeah.
That was.
You said it was the first trimester, you think?
Right.
Okay. And then what happened after that? After you had
You know, I just tried to push it aside and didn't think, just not think about it, because, like they tell you, it is nothing, it's just a little blob of tissues,
Mm-hmm.
that it's just, it's nothing. You just have it and then you just go on with your life.
Sure, yeah. Second one, what happened?
And that was, it was the same thing through the second one, through the third one, through the fourth one.
Did you have any remorse after the first or second one, Starr, or was it just a matter of routine?
It was just
birth control?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I didn't have any remorse. I just, like I said, I just pushed it down and not think about it. Just stayed busy. You just have to, you just stayed busy. You just didn't, think about it. You knew you had done it. You knew it was wrong, but you just didn't.
So you were 19 when you had the first abortion.
Right.
How old were you when you had the second abortion?
I was 22, I think.
So you kept on having an affair with the same man?
Yes, because we carried on that way for 10 years.
Okay, so the second abortion was at 22.
Right.
Was that in the first trimester as well?
Yes, because I could have both of those in Montgomery. The further along you got, you couldn't, do them. So I went to Birmingham.
For what, the third one?
Right, and I got pregnant again with my third one, and went up there and done it. And then I got pregnant again with my fourth one and went up there. And so after all that, I finally divorced my husband, and this guy and I were going to get married. Well, and I thought, we'll get married now. He's divorced from his wife. I'm divorced from this guy. And we're, just going to have a wonderful life. And then I got pregnant. And he did not want it. And and I couldn't understand. I know, we don't have anything to be ashamed about now, that we can be married and have this baby and raise it, and be a family. But he did not want that. He did not want this child. And I was so far along at that time that I couldn't have one done in Alabama. I had to go to Atlanta to do it.
So tell us what happened when you went to Atlanta with you were getting ready to have a 5th abortion.
Yes.
Tell us the story.
Yes, I went over there, and it was just a horrible place. There was just so many women, in there getting ready, to do the same thing that I was fixing to do. And so, you get in there, and, they get your money because, like I do, the abortion business is just blood money. That's all it is. I mean, it's just blood money. It's just all about it. So I had cried going over there, and just turmoil, and just, I didn't want to do this. I wanted this child. And so when I got in there to talk to the lady that was supposed to be my counselor, I walked in and I was crying, and she was sitting at her desk, and she got up and she come around there and she hugged me. And I just, like I said, I just fell into her, to her arms, just crying and telling her I didn't want to do this, that I wanted this baby. Somehow this one it was just different this time of having this baby. And she hugged me, and she just told me, she said, "You don't want to do this, do you?" And I told her no, that I didn't, that I wanted this baby. And this woman got up, and there was a window, there was curtains. I didn't know that, what was all behind there. She opened up the curtains, and she told me, she said, "You see those dumpsters out there?" She said, "That is where they're going to put your burned baby after you have it." And that just killed me. And I just told her, I said, I'm not doing this. And she said, "Well, you just go back to Alabama and you have your baby." And that's what I did. I mean, because I know that God that day, He put an angel in that room to stop the slaughter, because He knew that I couldn't deal. If I'd have done that, I couldn't have went on.
Folks, I'm talking to Starr Rogers. So they shut the world down for the pandemic. They close everything down. But they keep the abortion centers open. They're concerned about life. Well, we're all concerned about life, but they could care less about those unborn babies that are beating hearts. Don't we live in a world that's unbelievable? They shut the world down from the pandemic, but yet there's millions of unborn babies that they're allowing to be, as she said, slaughtered. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7, ssptv.com. We're streaming, and our YouTube channel, plus all of the other social media, we're there. We're producing these local neighborhood shows. My guest today, Starr Rogers. She is the author of God's Grace Alone. Had 4 abortions, ready to have a 5th abortion, and decided not to. So let's pick it up at that point where you decided that you're going to go home and have your baby, which is Matthew, right? Okay. A lot of things happen when you have abortions, post-abortions syndrome. How did that affect you? Tell me about that.
It just messed me up from top to bottom, because like when a woman has abortion, even though they do it and they think that they just go on with their lives, they don't, because it affects your mind, it affects your soul. You just have that longing, that emptiness, that something's right, because it's so against nature. You're supposed to have a baby, not rip it out and kill it.
Amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The message, how did you get to write the book?
Well, my son thought that I had the most wonderful story to tell, so him and I wrote this book. I told it and he wrote it.
What is the book? We have the synopsis, but what is the book? What message are we trying to get across?
I'm trying to tell, in this book, that if you are thinking about having an abortion, don't do it. If you have had one, you need to take it to God. No matter how long ago that you've had it, you need to, bring it to Him, because He's the only one that can forgive you of this. And you need to get into a post-abortion Bible study class so that you can be set free, because God's going to set you free from it if you come before Him at His mercy seat and get His forgiveness for that. And then you get into the post-abortion study and you'll go through it, because you've got to go through it. When you do it, you've got to go through your Bible and you're going to look and you're going to find the answers to all these questions in there, and you're going to realize, hey, I've done this, but I can be forgiven of this, and I can understand this and everything, and I can be, pure and clean again.
Do you have any? You do have remorse, but how are you feeling now, personally?
I just want to get the message out to women. Don't do this. Don't have an abortion, because there are options out there. You can, put your baby up for adoption. Just don't do this, because it's going to mess you up in your mind, in your heart.
Maryann has been, we've been singing for this song for many, many years. You are not a Catholic, you are a Methodist.
Right.
Okay, because sometimes they say it's a Catholic thing. It's not a Catholic thing. It's everyone's. Okay. When you're telling women out there, young girls, they're scared.
Right.
And especially when they feel their boyfriend or their spouse, is there for them, saying, well, they disappeared, now they're left alone. So you got to have, the compassion there for these young girls or middle-aged girls.
Right.
What do you tell these people? When their boyfriends or their husbands say to them, or you better get rid of the baby.
Don't listen to them, because it's not their body; it is yours. Mm-hmm. You do what is right in God's eyes.
See, that's the thing that we face. Starr, is that women feel, and rightly so, you said, that's my body and you have the right to do that. And so therefore, I think you have people who are pro-choice, Maryann, tell me if I'm wrong, where they are pro-choice, but they say, I would never have an abortion, but yet if that person wants to have an abortion, that's her body. She could do what she wants with that body, okay? Yeah. And what happens is, I ask you if you're a Catholic or Methodist, doesn't make any difference. They forget it's God's creation.
Exactly.
It's even though you're carrying it, and you said, what is it? You said, we're born to have children, not to rip them out of our bodies. Am I correct in saying that, Maryann?
That's correct.
It's just, and I said to you before I went for break, and I'm not being political, okay? They shut the world down. Pennsylvania shut down from the pandemic because they don't want people dying, but yet they kept the Planned Parenthood places open that you can kill unborn babies that have beating hearts. So when you say that, people get nervous. Why do you think they get nervous when we talk about that, Starr?
Because I know it's like such a taboo subject. Nobody wants to talk about abortion, because I don't think, people just don't really understand what abortion is. It's so evil, and it's so against God. And like I said before, there wouldn't even be all this if it wasn't for all the money, just the, millions upon millions of dollars. That's what keeps it going, but that's blood money. That's just blood money. And it's on everybody's hands. It's on the doctor's hands. Yes. It's on the Supreme Court, people who done the Roe versus Wade. Look at all that they've, all these years. They're going to have to account for all of that. Oh. That blood is just, is on their hands, and they're going to have to answer to it.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because when I say that, It's like, there's Sam again, you know, and I always get this, you know, Maryann, they say, Sammy, you know, there's a lot more involved with, you know, when it comes to elections or whatever, than pro-life. You know, there's poverty, there's work, and I agree with them. But what's the most important thing in life? It is life itself, that, as evident that we're doing with the pandemic. Okay, I mean, so, you know, it doesn't make sense to me. Do you know any of the women who had abortions?
I don't, not
Okay.
personally, I don't.
You think this book, okay, will, you know, would help people? I mean, because first of all, you know what you said, if you had an abortion, believe me, we're there for you, okay? We're there, right, Maryann?
Yes.
What are the options for people that have abortions and are going through this, you know, they're thinking about all of this, particularly after our last show when we showed aborted children, okay? It was a little hard to do, but we had to show that.
Yeah.
What do you tell those people, Maryann?
You know, and we are here, and I'm so grateful that you've given me the opportunity to bring Starr into the program. But Sam, Pennsylvanians for Human Life, the voice of John, the voice of John. We're up here so much for the woman in crisis pregnancy, the man who has impregnated a woman who is headed to Allentown to terminate that pregnancy, and we're here for the post-abortive woman. But the alternatives, adoption, and fostering, even to put your baby in a foster situation until you can pull yourself together or come to terms, am I ready to, can I take this on? So we're going to talk about things like that to them. We stand by them. I don't just give you a lecture. I have been with women during the labor and delivery. I don't abandon you. If you come to me for help, I stand by you. We have our Pregnancy Resource Center with Valerie White, and they're wonderful. Catholic Social Services, unbelievable what they have done. So I give you the resources. I am not here to judge, not my job.
Exactly.
And this little boy, when I held him and baptized him, his name is John, and the words that came to me, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do.
Boy, that's the same. I'll take a break talking to Maryann Lawhon. She's the president of the Pennsylvania for Human Life, the Hazleton Chapter, and Starr Rogers, who wrote this book, God's Grace Alone. She said something, we're not here to lecture, we're here to educate. I am frustrated, as you know, for many, many years, that people are concerned about so many things, curing cancer, definitely, I'm on board with all this stuff, but yet they think nothing of killing unborn babies. It's just amazing. And what frustrates me even more, my friends, sometimes we need support from not only our neighbors, but we need support from the clergy, we need support from our politicians, we need support from everybody, see? But sometimes they want to put their heads in the sand. They don't want to take the chance of protecting unborn babies. Starr said something really I've saying for years. You're going to have to answer for what you do. And boy, we don't live forever, do we, Maryann? And when God says, what did you do? And you tell them, yes, I killed your creation, and I even campaigned that we should still continue to kill your creation. Boy, I get the chills even saying that. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. My guest, Starr Rogers, who wrote the book God's Grace Alone, had 4 abortions, was ready to have a 5th, and decided not to. But you told me something about the 4 abortions you have. You have names for them, and what else do you have?
Right, I've got birth certificates for them.
Yeah.
They are named, they are valued.
Amazing. And Maryann, you know, continuing on, the show is seen not only here in Hazleton, but it's also in Pottsville and Wilkes-Barre. But if you're in these different areas, Pennsylvania for Human Life, you can contact them and you could always get information as to, you know, if you are pregnant and you're planning on getting an abortion. I want to compliment you. It's not easy to come on and television and talk about what you went through. You do have children now, right? How many children you have?
Yes, I do. I've got 4 children, and I've got 3 grandchildren. I'm fixing to have a 4th grandbaby.
See that? See it. And what do they think about Grandma? What do they call you? What do they call you down south?
Nene.
Nene. Oh, okay. So, okay, that's not too bad, you know. Nene. Yeah. You notice she has a funny accent, you know. Alabama. She's from Alabama. Maryann, it's always nice to see you. We're going to continue on our fight until this thing ends, and we're going to go down fighting if we have to.
I will always be the voice for the unborn.
Yeah.
And I will always stand beside these women so that no one has to sit in a chair like this and say, I had 2 first trimester abortions, I had 2 second trimester abortions, and on her way to her saline abortion from Matthew. I don't want anybody to suffer like that, and I know you don't, Sam, and that's why we're here, to educate, to say there's alternatives. Starr can tell you how tormented her life was, not even knowing it had become a train wreck. It just does.
Starr, you wonder how, when you were in that clinic, you wonder how that person who was there, and how any person who performs abortions can get up in the morning knowing that they're going to rip little arms and legs apart. And she said, we're going to throw your burnt baby into that trash can. How do you go to bed at night, and how do you get up in the morning and look at yourself in the face saying, you know, today I'm going to kill a lot of unborn babies? It's just crazy. But God bless you. Thank you for coming on the show. Maryann, it's always nice seeing you. Starr Rogers, God's Grace Alone, WIPFAND stock.com. How do you say that?
Whip or wipe.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Okay, whipfenstock.com. Resource Publications. Interesting book. We'll see you next time.